Controversy this morning surrounding Disney's much-anticipated Frozen 2. There's now an online push to make a big change to one of the stars. Some Frozen fans want Disney to give Elsa a girlfriend in the upcoming sequel. This is all in an effort to raise LGBT awareness.
Let it go, let it go, can't hold it back anymore.
Could Disney let its writers go ahead and make Elsa a lesbian for the sequel of Frozen? The hashtag Give Elsa a Girlfriend has gone viral. A teen tweeted that out last month and basically said it'd be iconic if it happened. Mixed feelings online, of course. We'll just have to wait and see what Disney decides.
It's a new day today. People look differently, people act differently. We're much more of an accepting culture, and this is now at the forefront of rights in America.
Target is taking a stand on the transgender bathroom controversy playing out across the nation. Target said Tuesday that transgender customers can use restrooms corresponding with their gender identity.
Each person can now use restrooms that align with their personal gender identity.
I know that it's like a trend to be more like welcoming or open-minded towards that kind of issue.
As a woman shopping at Target, do you mind a man coming in as a transgender woman into the restroom?
No, not at all.
It's an ever-changing society, so business is business. I think that they're doing what they need to do to make things evolve in regards to business, and as shoppers, we probably would need to comply with that.
News out of the South Loop. A man accused of an alarming crime against a little girl in a public restroom.
Right before Mother's Day, an 8-year-old girl goes into the restroom, and a man who is either inside there already or follows her in.
And that's when police say this man, 33-year-old Reese Hartstern, walked in and targeted the girl, choking her and trying to lock her in a stall. The mother heard her daughter screaming and grabbed her.
It saddens me. I don't get why people do things like this. I really wish I could understand that, but I don't.
I believe you're going to see an explosion in homeschools. If this prevails, parents are going to look for private schools. Parents are not going to send their 14-year-old daughters into the shower to the bathroom with 14-year-old boys. It's not going to happen. This has everything to do with keeping the federal government out of local issues.
This is an incredible overreach by the Obama administration, like none that we have ever seen.
School districts are being told they must allow transgender students to use the bathroom they identify with, not the gender listed on their birth certificate.
That directive came down today from the Obama administration. For example, someone who was born a boy but identifies as a girl would be able to use the girls' restroom.
Every public school in the country must let transgender students use bathrooms and locker rooms that match their current gender identity.
Now, tonight, schools are looking very closely over this joint letter from the Department of Education and the Department of Justice because it really could have a big impact when it comes to money.
Why can't parents and the public have input on this policy?
When we err on the side of fear, we amplify hysteria.
The issue had already boiled over in Fort Worth after the state's 5th largest school district said it would enforce a policy which includes letting transgender students choose the restroom they use, regardless of their gender at birth.
Taxpayers and parents should be outraged at this shocking violation and breach of the public trust. Get back to education, repeal the policy.
Public schools that do not comply risk losing federal aid.
The directive brought a defiant response from leaders here in Texas.
Democracy.
In Fort Worth, the new federal guidelines seem to intensify the debate rather than settle it.
Idaho Governor Butch Otter released a statement saying in part, threatening to withhold federal Title IX funding for failure to comply with this offensive attempt at social engineering only harms our children. It is unwarranted, unprecedented, and unacceptable.
A leading early education academic says preschoolers should be introduced to the subject of same-sex marriage. The paper discusses the importance of political
activism in the early learning sector. I mean, Shelley, we're talking about kids, you know, daycare, young kids, 3, 4, 5 years old. Surely a little bit too young.
What it is, it's just normalisation of everyone, so that it's not there's a mummy and a daddy and that's the only option, but just say, yeah, some people have mummy and mummy.
I think that's what this article is pushing for, going into detail and having that political activism. And I've got a problem with that term as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Phil, up to parents? I want to tell my son at that age, anyone who loves each other can marry anyone, which is what we believe.
Except in this country.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Should be able to.
All education should start at home in one way, I think, Amelia, but I think age appropriate is a good sort of thought here.
Thank you both. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Good evening. Primary school pupils as young as 4 are being asked to choose the gender they most identify with before starting school. In a letter from Brighton and Hove City Council that's been sent to parents, they're asking them to support your child to choose the gender they most identify with.
Well, the move has been criticised by some parents who say that such young children don't have a sophisticated understanding of gender issues and it could be potentially harmful. But the council defended its actions as a response to the requests of families.
I would say that 4's far too young to be asking that question, and it complicates the scenario that doesn't need to be complicated.
I just thought it was a bit odd. Didn't think it was a question that needed to be asked so early in life.
I'm afraid this is symptomatic of what's going on across the country. Gender issues, gender identity, sexual issues are being foisted onto 4- and 5-year-olds. For heaven's sake, let's give these children a childhood. We can deal with these problems later in life.
Basically, I identify as non-binary, which means that I don't fully identify as 100% male or 100% female.
Plant the seed into a child at the age of 4 that you can choose your gender if it's different than how you were created. And then you get to the college level where what you see there is the propagandizing of these students to the point where, well, whatever you want it to be. Where does this ultimately lead? Where is this ultimately going to go?
Where are their fluid standards of evaluation? I mean, clearly it's not based on any moral standpoint or any evidential standpoint. It's their opinion about it. And whereas another says, well, I don't have the right to really say that there are any standards for anything that goes on in life. Now, that is the world that we are up against. I think this, whereas we think we're talking on a common level of uniformity to say, you know, there is right, there is wrong. Hold on a second. You can't even assume that anymore, because what is right and wrong?
Why is it necessary for the coming together of religions? I see why it's necessary for coming together on money, on politics, but why religion?
Well, if there is going to be a one-world political and economic system, somehow the world's religions have to be brought together to make that possible. If they are in major disagreement with each other and don't see eye to eye, it would be very difficult to bring this one-world system together and have it work. And so that's why globalists have been pushing this agenda for a long time.
The second abomination is sexual immorality, and particularly the Bible speaks of homosexuality, and God says it's an abomination, and judgment comes from that. And, you know, John Winthrop, the man who said, we shall be a city as a hill, what people don't know is that right after that, he gave a warning, and he said, but if we turn away from our God, the judgments that came on Israel will come upon us. And he said, if we follow other gods, our prophets and our lusts. Well, here, America has been driving out God from the public square. When you drive out God, idols come in, gods come in. And in the last days of Israel, the image of idols appeared all across the land. But here's what happened, Pat. Just this summer, an image went up in New York City on another tower. And I want to show you that image. That is the Empire State Building. That is, what that is a foreign god. That is an image of the god Kali over New York City. And this is literally, I mean, this is probably the biggest image of a false god ever on the planet.
Do they know that was Kali?
They knew it was Kali. Yes, they did, and they thought it was something good. You know, the Bible says, "Woe to those who call darkness good and darkness light." Well, they're projecting all this light to the god of Kali, which is the god of darkness.
Yes,
and Kali, and you, I'm sure you know, she's the god. It's the god of death.
Yes.
And the god of destruction.
Yeah.
So here, this sign goes up on New York City. I mean, every one of the abominations has come true. Every one of them.
My voice is my power. Your face emerges from the shadows. The transformation is coming. The world will see who I am.
I follow you into the darkness.
Numbers are growing.
We await the great reset beckons.
There is gold at the end of this journey. How do you drown out the noise?
There is no end.
Only new beginnings.